Hi, I'm Mark. You're watching Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I'm going to bring you a tutorial about how to make your old MacBook a little bit faster. Now, Apple laptops do tend to last a long time. However, much like any other machine, although not quite as much as Windows, they do slow down a bit over time. This is largely because you upgrade the operating system and programs get more complex and demand more from your laptop. In this video, I'm going to take you through how to upgrade your MacBook Pro with an SSD hard drive to make it that little bit faster. So in this video, I'm going to be installing a 2TB Crucial SSD 2.5-inch SATA drive into my MacBook Pro. Of course, you don't have to go for that, and actually any 2.5-inch SATA SSD will work with a MacBook Pro. Two key things to consider when you're upgrading your hard drive is, one, what will your machine take? The Crucial website has a really helpful scanner which will scan your computer and tell you what you can upgrade it to. Of course, this only recommends Crucial products, but you can then go and find compatible products from other manufacturers. I went for a Crucial SSD because they come with a 5-year warranty, but I have also used Samsung drives in the past and they're really good as well. A second thing to consider is how much memory you want. I've gone for 2TB because I use a lot of files in Logic and Final Cut and I have a lot of music. You could simply upgrade your existing hard drive to match a new one. However, it's worth thinking about whether you want to future-proof your machine at the same time and give yourself some extra space to expand. So all that aside, let's get on with the tutorial. So there's a couple of things you're going to need to carry out this process. First of all, of course, you're going to need to have your new SSD drive at the ready. Secondly, you're going to need to have a way to connect it to your existing laptop. This will be used for transferring data across. You can pick up all sorts of hard drive docks, but actually for £6 on Amazon you can pick up a USB to SATA connector. This is USB 3 compatible and works really quickly for transferring data. I've linked this below. You're also going to need a couple of screwdrivers. You're going to need a small cross-headed screwdriver or flip screwdriver for undoing screws on the back of your Mac, and then you're going to need a star screwdriver in order to undo the screws around the hard drive itself. If you haven't got a star screwdriver, you could probably do this very gently with a pair of pliers because it's on the actual hard drive that you're taking out and putting in, and so you won't be near your machine when you're removing these screws. The first thing we're going to do is connect our new drive via USB to our MacBook. Then we're going to open a program called Disk Utility, which you should find in your Applications folder under Utilities. Once you're in Disk Utility, you'll see that you've got two categories on the left-hand side. You've got internal and you've got external. Internal is the drive that is in your MacBook, and external is the one you've just connected via USB. If you've got other hard drives connected or a CD in your drive, you'll also see some other things in this pane. It's really important at this stage to make sure our new drive is formatted correctly, ready for our backup. The format of your drive will depend on what version of Mac OS you're running. Typically, from Mac Mojave onwards, Apple used the APFS file system. The easiest way to know what file system you want to use is to click your internal drive and see what it says as the current type. On mine, as you can see, it currently says APFS up here and also down here. Once you've noted that type, you want to click your external drive and we're going to click the Erase button up here. This will wipe any content on your new drive, so if you have used it for anything else and there's anything on there that you want, make sure you've got that off first. Here we're going to name the new drive, and it must be a different name for your existing drive, but we can change that later. And then we're going to select the format. For me that's AFPS, but it might be something else depending on what you want. We just want the AFPS, we don't want encrypted or case sensitive. Then we hit Erase. Next we're going to clone our existing content onto the new hard drive. There's a couple of ways you can do this, but my personal preference is to use Carbon Copy Cloner. Carbon Copy Cloner does cost a little bit of money, but I find it a really useful piece of software to have on my machine. If you don't want to spend any money, I've put a link below to a video from Crucial that shows you how to do it using Disk Utility in recovery mode. If you do go my way and use Carbon Copy Cloner, once you're in the application you want to click New Task. There we're going to select the source as the hard drive that is currently in our MacBook, so our old drive, and the destination as the drive that we are going to use eventually, so our USB drive. We're going to do a couple other things here as well, so we're going to switch off Safety Net because we don't want it to keep a backup of different files that have been deleted, and we're also going to go into Advanced Settings and just make sure only this box that says Use Strict Volume Identification is checked. Then we hit Clone. Now, depending on how much data you've got, this might take quite a while, so you might want to make a cup of coffee or go and do something else completely. If you're running an old style hard drive backing up to an SSD, then the chances are this is going to take a really long time. Once your clone is complete, you'll be able to see if there were any errors, and I also recommend hitting clone again and running the whole task once more. It won't copy every file again, but it will just make sure that anything that's been missed will get picked up. This second time round will be a lot quicker. A final thing to click once we're in here is just the volume, just to make sure we know that it's bootable. If you're using a version of Mac OS that's older than Mojave, you might also want to use this section here to set up the recovery hard drive to actually make your drive bootable. At this point we could quite easily take the MacBook apart and put the new drive in, however it makes sense to check that our clone actually works. So we want to shut down our laptop. Next, making sure that the drive is still connected via USB, hit the power button and then hold down the Alt key. You'll then see a boot menu appear. On this menu, choose the USB disk that you've just cloned to and hit enter. Your laptop will then boot from your USB. Once it's loaded up, log in, and this is a chance to check that the files you expect to be there are actually there. It's also a good time to check that some of your applications work. Once you're happy with that, turn off your Mac and it's time for a bit of surgery. Now luckily, upgrading RAM and hard drives in a 2012 MacBook Pro is really easy. I do, however, recommend following along with the tutorial. I've put a link to a really good one from iFixit down below. I also recommend having a separate piece of paper ready with circles marked on for you to put the screws that you remove. With Apple products, screw size is really important, and so it's important that you know which screw came from where. I also recommend keeping things a reasonable distance from the edge of your desk so there's less chance of tiny screws falling onto your floor. This might sound like common sense, but it's all mistakes I've made in the past. So first up, we want to remove the screws around the edge of our MacBook rear. Once that's done, the rear of the MacBook should lift off from where the fan and the hinge is. Pop this back to one side for now. Next, using some kind of plastic spludger or tool, you want to make sure that you pry the battery connector off. This just means no power is running through the system when we're replacing our hard drive. Next, if you go over to the bottom left hand corner, you'll find where your hard drive is. This drive is held in place by a bracket. There are 2 screws on this bracket, so undo these 2 screws and lift off the black bracket. Once you've removed this, you can use a piece of plastic to very gently pry your hard drive up, but don't pull too hard because it is still connected to your Mac. Once you've done that, you'll be able to see the ribbon cable that connects the ATA port to your MacBook. Very gently prise this off. Next, on your old hard drive, you're going to want to remove the 4 screws around the edges. These are the ones that use the star-shaped screwdriver I talked about earlier. If you haven't got a star-shaped screwdriver, these are quite chunky, so if you were really gentle with a pair of pliers, you could probably remove them like that. These need to then go onto the sides of your new hard drive. Once you've connected those screws, it's time to connect the hard drive to your MacBook. This is as simple as connecting the serial ATA cable to the edge of your hard drive, just like when you removed the other one just now. To put the hard drive back in, you want to put it in at an angle from the outside first. Then you put back the bracket that held the hard drive in place, you reconnect the battery connector, and you put the rear of your MacBook back on. At this stage, I recommend only putting a couple of those screws back in until we've tested that it works first. This saves potential risk to the screws from constantly undoing and redoing them. One at the top and bottom should be suffice. Then we hit the power button and it's a moment of truth. If everything has gone according to plan, you'll find that your new speedy SSD has booted up your Mac in record time and everything is working just as it should be. If you're planning to use your old hard drive for something else or sell it on, then I recommend keeping it for about a week first, just so you've got a chance to use all of your regular documents and make sure everything is transferred across. I also have a time machine backup, so if anything's got lost, I can recover it that way as well. So there you go. That is how to add an SSD drive into a 2012 MacBook Pro. And it really does make a huge difference in terms of speed. And actually it ends up being a lot faster than it would be if you just added a bit more RAM into your device. I want to be really honest with you guys at this stage in the video and say that I've spent about 3 days making this video because I ran into all sorts of issues when transferring my data and making my clone. This resulted in things like the folder with a question mark when I was trying to boot, the no entry sign and no end of problems. In the end, I discovered that it was my hard drive caddy causing the issues, and so I picked up the cable that I mentioned and recommended at the start of this video, cloned my hard drive, and everything worked perfectly, just as it did on the video you've just seen. If you want to know more about some of the errors that I had and the things that I tried, then I've written a blog about that over on my blog, so do follow the link to that below. Below you'll also find some links to the tutorials I talked about, plus some links to Amazon to pick up a hard drive or one of those cables. Those links are affiliate links, so if you do buy something via those links, you do help out this channel, so thank you very much. If you've got any questions or you've run into problems yourself, do stick them in the comments and I'll try and answer those. Please like this video if it's helped you out, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys again soon.